Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving deep into a hidden kingdom of life, one that shapes our world in ways you might not even realize. We're talking about a world of recyclers, healers, and yeah, sometimes even killers. Let's get right into it. So, let's start with a bit of a riddle, shall we? Think about it for a second. The bread in your kitchen, the medicine that can save your life, and some of nature's most dangerous poisons. What on earth could they all possibly have in common? And the answer, of course, is the fungal kingdom. Fungi are literally everywhere, in the air we breathe, deep in the soil, and yep, even living on and inside our bodies. So let's pull back the curtain and see what makes them so unique. Okay, first things first, we've got to bust a major myth. For the longest time, people just lumped fungi in with plants, but as you're about to see, they are in a league completely of their own. So what's the big difference? Well, think of it this way. Plants are the ultimate chefs. They make their own food using sunlight. Fungi, on the other hand, are more like us. They have to get their food from somewhere else. They're amazing decomposers, absorbing nutrients from their surroundings. And instead of roots and leaves, their bodies are made of these super fine, thread-like structures called hyphae. The differences are so fundamental, scientists gave them their very own kingdom, Mycota. So if they aren't plants, then what exactly defines a fungus? What are the core rules for being part of this exclusive club? First off, let's just try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale here. Scientists have already identified over 200,000 different species of fungi. And honestly, they think there could be millions more out there. The diversity is just staggering. But, and this is a really important but, out of that massive number, only about 300 species are known to actually cause disease in humans. That's a tiny, tiny fraction. It really helps put their role in the world into perspective, doesn't it? So here's the checklist for what makes a fungus a fungus. First, they're eukaryotic, which means their cells are complex, kind of like ours. They're non-modal, so they pretty much stay put. They're saprophytic, which is just a fancy way of saying they are nature's ultimate recyclers, breaking down dead stuff for nutrients. And finally, they have rigid cell walls and build themselves out of those thread-like hyphae we talked about. But here's where it gets really, really cool. Fungi aren't just one thing. They have two basic forms, two totally different ways of showing up in the world. On the one hand, you have yeasts. These guys are single-celled, usually round or oval, and they reproduce by just budding off little copies of themselves. They grow super fast. Then, on the other hand, you have molds. These are the ones that form those intricate branching networks of hyphae, the fuzzy stuff you might find on old bread or fruit. This is where it gets absolutely fascinating. What if a fungus didn't have to choose? What if it could be a simple cell one day and a complex network the next? What if it could shapeshift? And that's exactly what dimorphic fungi do. The name says it all, right? Di for two, morphic for form. These are the true masters of disguise in the fungal kingdom, and they switch between their yeast and mold forms based on one simple trigger, temperature. Now, this shapeshifting is the key to how some of them cause disease. Out in the environment, say at room temperature, a dimorphic fungus is a mold. But if you accidentally breathe in its spores, your warm body temperature, about 37 degrees Celsius, flips a switch. It transforms into its yeast form, and it's this transformation that allows it to set up shop and cause an infection. It's their ultimate secret weapon. All right, pop quiz time. Let's do a quick knowledge check. We know our own cell membranes rely on cholesterol. But what about fungi? What's the key building block in their cell membranes? Take a look at the options. The answer is C, ergosterol. And hey, this isn't just a random trivia question. This is actually a huge deal in medicine. Because ergosterol is unique to fungi, we can design drugs that specifically attack it, destroying the fungus's cell membrane without hurting our own cells. It's a really brilliant medical strategy. So we've seen what fungi are and the different forms they take, but how do they get around? How do they survive so well? The answer lies in their superpower, the spore. Fungal spores are like these incredible little survival pods. They can be made in different ways, with or without a partner. They are ridiculously tough, able to survive extreme heat, cold, you name it. This toughness is how they travel all over the planet, and it's why we sometimes get sick just by accidentally breathing them in. And for a lot of us, they're also powerful allergens that can trigger things like hay fever. Now, there are tons of different kinds of spores, but let's just zoom in on one of the simplest types to understand, the arthroconidia. It's a perfect example of how efficient fungi can be.
The way these spores are made is just genius in its simplicity. You don't need any complex machinery. The long thread-like hypha just breaks apart at the joints. Each little fragment that breaks off becomes a brand new individual spore, all ready to go out and start a new colony. It's an incredibly effective way to multiply.
Whew! Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground here, right? We've talked about their diversity, their shape-shifting disguises, their incredible survival tactics. So let's just take a moment and bring it all together. So what are the big takeaways? First, fungi are their own thing, a unique kingdom, totally separate from plants. Second, they are masters of disguise, living as either yeasts or molds, with some of them able to switch between the two to become infectious. And third, they have a spore superpower, an amazing tool that lets them survive and spread almost anywhere. This quote right here, it just nails their dual nature. Those unusual metabolic products they make, well, sometimes that's a life-saving antibiotic like penicillin, and other times it's a deadly poison. And that brings us right back to where we started, the bread, the medicine, and the toadstool. They are builders and destroyers, healers and killers. They are a kingdom of incredible, fascinating contradictions. And the most amazing part is knowing that we've only just begun to scratch the surface of their secrets. What else is this hidden kingdom waiting to show us?